All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for the Artificial Intelligence Research Briefing. So we're just going to run through a couple housekeeping items, and then I'll pass you over to Nick to dive into the content itself. So first, we sort of host two types of webinars here at CB Insights. One is sort of an hour-long, broader, more sort of interactive webinar where we go across a range of verticals. And then this one is sort of one of our deep dive research briefings where we try to go very in depth, very quickly on a specific subject and keep it tight and short to respect your time. So we're not actually going to take any questions at the end, but we will answer any questions you do have. So please go ahead and ask them. You can do that either via the questions tab inside GoToWebinar, email us at webinar@cbinsights.com, or tweet at CB Insights using the hashtag CBIAI, and Nick and team will get back to you pretty shortly afterwards. And don't worry about taking notes or anything like that. We will distribute both the slides and the recording shortly after the webinar, so you can have it, you can do what you want with it. We love folks that use our research in their research, so just let us know if you're using it and how. We're always curious. If you do run into any sort of technical issues during the broadcast itself, your best bet is the Citrix help desk. But again, worst case, you'll have the slides and recording afterwards, so not to worry. So just a little bit about Nick. Nick is one of our tech industry analysts here at CB Insights. Obviously, one of his research areas is artificial intelligence. But in addition, he focuses on IoT, AR, VR, augmented reality, virtual reality, drones, sort of our frontier tech umbrella, as well as wearables. Prior to joining us here, he was at MakerBot Industries, also in a research role, and he came out of Hamilton College. You've probably seen his research if you follow CB Insights at all in Forbes, Fortune, Wired, a range of other publications. So we're definitely in good hands. He's certainly the expert on the space. Just another reminder, if you have questions, insights, visuals you want to share, we're at CB Insights on Twitter, and we're using the hashtag CBIAI for this webinar. Just a little bit about us. I mean, all the data you're going to see is pulled straight from our data and analytics platform. So we're a software tool that lets you ask any questions you want about the private markets, private companies within them, who's investing in which companies, which trends and sectors are performing well, which aren't, et cetera, et cetera. So we're a pretty broad research tool as well as a deep one, and we're used by a lot of the world's leading global corporations, some of the names here on the screen, as well as most of the venture capitalists in the world. So if you have research needs, we're happy to talk about how our platform can help you answer questions on your own. Just drop us a line. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nick to run through artificial intelligence.
Alrighty, hi everybody, and thanks Victor for that intro. I'm super happy to be talking today about artificial intelligence. It's a very fascinating field out there, and it has implications on pretty much every industry around, and it's really just beginning to take off. So just to outline what we're going to cover today in the webinar, first we'll start off with some definitions of AI, what it is, the shape of the industry, and the verticals to where it's being applied. Then we'll examine where AI is driving investment and take a look at how corporate investors are responding. After that, we'll do a deeper dive into AI as applied to healthcare, which is one of the hottest areas for investment currently, and then highlight some of the funding trends within that specific vertical. After that, we'll drill into a couple hot areas like advertising and business intelligence, and then we'll wrap up with some industry trends and news and things we're expecting to see in the coming years within the space. And again, if I'm moving too fast, don't worry at all. We'll send out the slide deck and the webinar recording at the end, and you can revisit that at your convenience. So to begin, you've probably heard AI thrown around a lot lately, and it's pretty much become the new tech company focus across the board. So looking here, everyone from Amazon to Baidu is betting big that AI is going to be a core part of their future business. So Jeff Bezos of Amazon said, quote, "It's the first inning. It might be the first guys up to bat. We're on the edge of a golden age of AI." And Sundar Pichai at a recent earnings call unveiled the new tech company, or the new company thesis at Google. He said, quote, "In the long run, I think we'll evolve in computing from a mobile first to an AI first world." So undoubtedly, AI is becoming the new essential tool for anyone in the business of bits and bytes. So what do we at CB Insights define as AI? We're talking about companies that are applying solutions to specific verticals like healthcare, advertising, or finance, as well as those who are developing the general purpose AI technology, also known as core AI or general AI. And that runs the gamut from image recognition to conversational intelligence and everything in between there. So technically speaking, what is AI? Now, just to give a quick overview on the buzzwords that I'm sure you've heard thrown around. More broadly, AI is a branch of computer science that's trying to get computers to exhibit intelligence or perform cognitive tasks like humans do. So a very popular range of techniques within AI is machine learning. And one very popular machine learning technique called deep learning is where a lot of the conversation has centered around as of late. And that's because deep learning is where a lot of the advances in productive research is happening within the field. And if you want to learn more about it, I highly recommend Frank Chen's recent video on the subject. It's extremely informative. If you want to learn more about the history, it's well worth watching. But what does AI look like in the field right now? Well, if you've been on BuzzFeed or Airbnb's suggested listing prices or Facebook's M Assistant, these all use deep learning or machine learning algorithms to optimize your clicks, your listing price, or to process and understand your language. And this is all going on while the system is improving itself in the background. So AI techniques will make every application smarter, faster, and better suited for our needs because they're improving automatically through the experience of feeding it more data. Now, a computer that solves problems and automatically learns from its experience, it's no doubt useful in pretty much every industry imaginable. So consequently, everything from finance and cybersecurity to agriculture and education, they're all getting overhauled with this AI technology. And it's easy to dismiss it as just another Silicon Valley buzzword, but a lot of the hype is totally well-founded. Recently in autonomous vehicles, we're seeing some interesting things like George Hotz of Comma AI was able to build a self-driving vehicle as a one-man team, and that project recently garnered investment from Andreessen Horowitz. And then be it in robotics and smart factories, e-commerce, or healthcare imaging analysis, just to name a few, there's really no shortage of applications that you can see AI, it will be able to revolutionize. Now, just to give you a point of reference on that hype I was referring to, we can take a look at AI in our Trends tool, and it's a new CB Insights feature that allows you to track news mentions. And you can just see here artificial intelligence versus gamification, which was definitely a fad buzzword that came and went. And you can see that it's probably here to stay given that comparison. Looking here, big data or chatbots, those are definitely very in fashion words right now. And it's definitely comparing well against those. And then just drilling into AI and seeing like the verticals to where it's being applied, we see health AI versus robotics and smart factory AI versus AI is applied to auto. And you can see here that auto AI is moving up, healthcare is trending even higher, and then robotics and smart factories still has the most mentions. So overall, what does this really all mean? Well, a lot of this has to do with the overall status of AI research right now. So the sentiment in the field is extremely optimistic because research is advancing quickly, whereas in the past that attitude is certainly fluctuated. So since the 1950s, AI has gone through several different hype cycles. And then when funding and interest falls, it's generally referred to as an AI winter. But the feeling right now is that we're in an AI spring where pretty much anything is possible. So moving into the investment landscape. And globally, we've seen more than $6 billion invested over 1,100 deals. And taking a look at the yearly financing trends here, equity financing to the space have gone from $282 million in 2011 to $2.4 billion in 2015, and that's a 746% increase in just 5 years. And taking a look here at the quarterly chart, and it really just illustrates how fast deals are accelerating. So just this past quarter, quarter one, AI deals peaked at 143, and just quarter over quarter, that translates to 36% growth. We're also seeing some really high tallies in quarter four of 2014 and quarter three of 2015. We see that those 2 quarters each got more than $900 million invested in that time. And so this is definitely a hot space for investment at the moment. And deals to this space definitely skew towards the early stages. So seed and Series A saw the majority of deals in all of the past 5 years. And as the industry matures, we expect that figure to retreat a little bit, but it hasn't done that much yet. So in 2011, 70% of the deals were seed or Series A, and nowadays it's 65%. So it hasn't really moved terribly in those past 5 years, but it's really the middle stages that is driving most of the investment. So funding, is, at least in the dollars invested, it's the middle stages that are taking the most. And that's Series B and Series C we consider the middle stage. Now moving into the most active players in AI, this is a list of most active VCs in the space. The number one most active was KHOSLA Ventures, followed by a tie between Intel Capital and Data Collective. And then in fourth was GV, so Google's venture arm right there. And a very useful way to visualize these investment connections is with our business social graph. So here we visualize those top 4 AI investors' bets, and you can see here there's a ton of investment connections between Data Collective and KHOSLA Ventures, and they share a lot of portfolio companies. And 2 interesting ones, you can see those connections with Timeful, an AI company later acquired by Google, and then there was also Vicarious, and that has a star-studded cap table that with angels that include Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, to name a few there. And also, interestingly, KHOSLA Ventures backed 4 healthcare-related AI companies. So using this business social graph is a very useful tool for understanding those connections between the startups and their investors. So moving into the corporates that are getting involved, it's pretty evident how funding has ramped up in the past 2 years. So corporate-backed deals in dollars reached a new high in 2015 with $926 million invested across 88 deals. And some of the largest rounds last year included a Series E raised by Taboola, a Series D round raised by InsideSales.com, and then a $55 million Series C round raised by Yazdi, which happens to be backed by Citi Ventures. Again, looking at the quarterly trend, the pace of deal making is accelerating fast. So we're seeing those funding spikes in quarter one of 2015 were driven by those previously mentioned rounds by Yazdi, Taboola, and InsideSales.com. So taking a look at the most active corporate venture arms that are investing, nearly all of these top corporate venture arms are for tech or data giants, which is somewhat unsurprising, I guess. So topping this list, we have Intel Capital, we have Google Ventures, we have GE Ventures, Samsung Ventures, and Bloomberg Beta. And investment in the space likely offers all of them immense value and the ability to extract more out of their very data-driven core businesses. And again, we visualized those connections using our business social graph, which illustrates here a pretty notable 3-way connection between Intel Capital, GV, and Samsung Ventures. And that's on Expect Labs, and that's a company working on conversational intelligence. So another very interesting visualization there. So aside from those, what other areas are hot? Just doing a a quick look at the core AI companies, those companies that are focused on general purpose AI for a variety of industries. Here's a list of those most well-funded in that area. So we have Sentient, Yazdi, Digital Reasoning, Vicarious, and Data Robot. And all of these saw $50 million or more in equity financing. So while a lot of investments certainly going to general purpose AI, we've also mapped out the more specific verticals where AI companies are seeing funding. So this is a heat map based on our sub-industry taxonomies. And we can see that top deals, or top areas for deals, were healthcare, advertising, sales and marketing, as well as business intelligence, among many others here that you can see. And because healthcare is driving so much of the activity, we really wanted to do a little bit of a deeper dive into that area. And I think one quote that really highlights the possibility within the healthcare arena, Bernard Tyson of Kaiser Permanente said, quote, "I don't think any physician today should be practicing without artificial intelligence assisting in their practice. It's just impossible otherwise to pick up on patterns, to pick up on trends, to really monitor care." And so going forward, AI can be that ultimate enabling tool for the future of healthcare. And we made a market map of AI companies within the healthcare space and grouped them according to what area they're innovating within. And drug discovery was one interesting one. So this is using AI in data analysis for pharmaceutical R&D with the eventual goal of reducing trial times and bringing drugs to market. So companies working there include 2XAR, which is a company backed by Andreessen Horowitz, as well as Numerit, which is backed by Atlas Ventures and Foundation Capital. Another interesting space towards the left side of this graphic, you can see there's wearables, so devices for remote patient monitoring or using advanced algorithms on the data to improve health outcomes. So two interesting companies there were PhysIQ and BioBeats. And then lastly, in the far left, you can see diagnostics and imaging companies, which is kind of an interesting space. These are companies that are working on improving the imaging itself or trying to squeeze more juice from the same data to make diagnoses more accurate. So companies working there include deep learning startup Deep Genomics, Zebra Medical Vision, which is backed by KHOSLA Ventures and Mark Benioff, as well as Arteris, which is backed by GE Ventures. Now here's the list of the most well-funded AI companies that are working in healthcare, and topping the list, there's Welltalk, which is a health management platform that partnered once with IBM Watson. There's iCarbonix in health data. There's Stratified Medical in drug R&D. Butterfly Network in ultrasound imaging, and Apixio in clinical data analytics. And you might also notice that in total funding, these top even those core AI companies we were talking about before. So one example, Welltalk saw a pretty sizable $192 million in total funding. So looking at deals to healthcare-related AI companies, deal volume has been increasing year over year since 2011, with deals more than doubling in 2014. So in 2015, the growth was a little bit more modest, but funding had a massive leap of nearly 460% in the year of 2014. So it went from $64 million the year prior in 2013 to $358 million in 2014. And that massive jump was driven in large part by Butterfly Network's $100 million Series C round, as well as Stratified Medical's round of $64 million. And just in comparison, the largest round in 2013 was for less than $20 million. So we're not only seeing more deals, we're seeing bigger deals in the healthcare AI space. Again, the quarterly chart really just underscores how deals are seeing an incredible uptick, especially as of late. So taking a look at the deal share over the past 5 years, new startups are definitely venturing into this healthcare AI space. So the vast majority, 69% of deals were at the early stages. So that's seed and Series A. Middle stages took 13%, and late stages saw just 3% of the deals. And then taking a look at the dollars invested, funding into healthcare is slightly less skewed, but still saw 39% of dollars invested at the early stages. Middle stages saw 32% of the dollars invested, and then 13% of funding went to late stage deals. And then finally, wrapping up on the healthcare front, there's an increasing amount of healthcare deals as a proportion of all AI investments. So in 2011, healthcare made up 11% of all the AI deals, and actually in last year, in 2015, that figure was 15%. So healthcare is playing an increasingly big role in the greater AI ecosystem. So aside from healthcare, what other areas are hot? Remember that in our heat map before, we saw that advertising, sales, and marketing was an area that saw a relatively high amount of deals. So companies here are using advanced algorithms to predict the best time to reach you, on what device, and then tailor email messages based on your online behavior. And here's a list of the most well-funded within that area. InsideSales.com tops the list. That one's backed by Microsoft Ventures, among several other corporates as well. So moving into one other hot space, this one is the popular sub-industry of business intelligence. So Atensity here provides corporate insights and is the most well-funded on this list. And one application here is also using natural language processing to analyze social media sentiment, which is pretty similar to also what NetBase is doing. So where is AI going? Again, bringing in that heat map, we're seeing activity picking up for CRMs, so customer relationship management, as well as personal assistants, and that's indicated by their increasingly yellow tiles over the years here. Some areas for opportunity, we're actually seeing that there's still plenty of room within e-commerce and education. And e-commerce, aside from like a sudden spike in 2015, there's still relatively light on deals for both of those categories. And overall within the space, we're seeing an increasing amount of exit activity. So last year, saw that there were 2 IPOs. The automated marketing company Algorithms and the Internet of Things company Building IQ were among the 38 exits in AI last year. And just at the current run rate right now, without having closed Q2, 2016 is still on track to have a record-breaking year for exits. We've seen already 24 have happened thus far, and we're expecting to see 2016 to be another record year for AI exits. And actually, what's kind of interesting about these exits and the companies that are getting acquired, the vast majority are snapped up within 4 years from their first financing. So you can see here from this dot plot that very few are even above the 5-year mark, except for a few outliers there. Just another cool visualization you can do inside the CB Insights product. And one very cool timeline we built here illustrates the M&A activity chronologically. So you can see from this, Google is clearly ahead of the pack. It made some pretty key acquisitions in 2013 and 2014. So neural network startup DNN Research, and later DeepMind Technologies for $650 million. And you may know that DeepMind was the company that later within Google developed the AI algorithms to beat the human world champion in the board game Go. Also interesting, Salesforce and Apple joined the race last year, and you can see they've each made 3 acquisitions. And overall, we expect this race to continue to heat up in the coming years as big corporations start to compete with one another and keep on snapping up different private AI companies and integrating them into their larger businesses. And then to highlight some notable industry news from the year, Of course, there was Google's Go breakthrough using DeepMind technology to beat Lee Sedol, the top-ranking human player. A little after that, I mentioned it before, Comma AI's George Hotz, who built a self-driving car in his garage and got funding from A16Z. Then we saw Viv Labs, the maker of Siri, announce a demo for its AI assistant. And a little more recently, Facebook announced its M chatbot assistant will eventually be powered completely by AI, but first needs to build out a common sense AI to more intuitively learn language and circumvent needing to feed it enormous data sets for it to learn very simple things. But actually, really interestingly, just this last week, IBM, whose Watson AI project, helped get the company more patents granted than any other American company in 2015. IBM recently announced a large partnership with 16 medical imaging companies with the goal of predicting diseases like cancer, diabetes, and heart failure, which is a very exciting application. And to wrap up with some recent deals, Silence is a pretty interesting one we saw. It's a cybersecurity company that recently did a $100 million Series D. Mana, which I've talked about in my previous industrial IoT webinar, they're applying AI techniques to industrial Internet of Things data, and they just did a Series B. Fractal Analytics did a large growth round in May. Globality, which counts Al Gore and Sheryl Sandberg among some of its angel investors, held a Series B in April, and iCarbonix, a AI healthcare company based in China, did a massive $154 million Series A at a $1 billion valuation. So an exciting unicorn to keep track of there. But that concludes pretty much everything I had prepared for you today. And I just want to thank you again for listening. And please know that AI is an area of ongoing coverage for us. So stay tuned for coming research and a more full-length webinar. And we will be fielding questions offline on Twitter if you use the hashtag CBIAI. And if you want to find me, my handle is at NPappag. So Nick Papa George at NPAPPAG. And again, we will send out the slide deck and the webinar recording at the end of the presentation, which you can revisit. And just want to thank you again. And I look forward to bringing you more in the future.